So when you hear the word Tai Chi, what's the first thing that pops into your head? Is it those slow, graceful movements you see in the park? Maybe just a gentle exercise for older folks? Well, today we're going to completely tear down that image. We're going to rebuild it from the ground up and show you that Tai Chi isn't just a wellness routine, it's a really sophisticated architecture for wisdom. And to get there, we actually have to start with a very modern problem.
Okay, take a look at this chart. It shows two really important numbers for Taiwan, life expectancy and, well, healthy life expectancy. And you can see we're living longer than ever, which sounds great, right? But look at that gap on the right. That represents what experts call years lived with disability. It's this growing chunk of time where we're alive, but we're not necessarily well. And that really forces us to ask a tough question, doesn't it? Is the goal just to add more years to our life? Or should it be to add more life to our years? This gap, this quality gap, that's the crisis that really sets the stage for everything we're going to talk about today.
So, to find a solution, we're not going to look at some shiny new technology. Instead, we're going to look back, way back, to an ancient strategic answer, one that's been tested and refined for literally thousands of years. This right here, this frames the entire philosophy of Tai Chi, and it's all in this incredible old story about controlling floods. So, on the left, you've got this guy named Gun. His big idea? Build dams, block the water, contain it. And guess what? He failed, catastrophically. But then his son, Yu, comes along. He takes a totally different approach. He doesn't try to block the water. He dredges channels to guide it. He worked with its nature. And he succeeded. You see, this isn't just a story about water. It's about how you deal with any overwhelming force in your life.
And here's our first big mind shift for today. Taijiquan, it's not just a bunch of slow movements. It is the physical, living embodiment of Yu's strategy. It's a whole system built on guiding and diverting energy, not just meeting force head-on with more force. It's strategic thinking that you can actually feel in your own body.
And as you can see from this timeline, this whole idea of diversion and guidance, it's not some isolated thing. This thinking stretches all the way from Dayu's flood control, you can see it in the genius strategies of Sun Tzu's Art of War, and then it gets distilled and crystallized into the physical practice we know as Taijiquan. It's part of this incredible long lineage of advanced strategic thinking.
Okay, so how does this ancient philosophy actually work in the real world? Like, what's really going on? This is where we get to the science of Tai Chi. We're going to move away from the poetic metaphors for a second and dive into some really cool, measurable neuromechanics.
All right, the absolute key to unlocking all of this science is a concept called song. Now, it's often translated as just relaxation, but honestly, that doesn't really do it justice. It's a very specific state of releasing all the unnecessary muscle tension, the stuff you don't even know you're holding onto, to dramatically ramp up your sensory awareness. The point isn't to be limp like a noodle, it's to be incredibly, almost supernaturally receptive.
And check this out. This number perfectly illustrates what happens. So there's this thing called Weber's law of perception. It says that a body in this state of song can detect a change in weight or pressure of as little as 2%. 2! Now, compare that to our regular sense of touch, which needs about a 14% change to notice anything. This isn't magic, it's not hocus pocus. It's just highly tuned proprioception.
So the really crucial thing to get here is that this deep relaxation, this song state, it has nothing to do with being passive or weak. It's all about quieting the muscular noise in your body so you can receive. It's like getting high-resolution data from your environment and from anyone you're interacting with. You just feel things sooner and with way more clarity.
This state of song, it literally starts to rewire your system. Your sensory resolution gets a massive upgrade, which means you can predict movement way more effectively. It strengthens that communication highway between your brain and your muscles, and it improves something called feed-forward control, which is basically your brain's amazing ability to get ready for an action before you even consciously decide to do it.
Okay, so we've got the philosophy, we've touched on the science, but how do you actually do this stuff? How do you practice it? This is where we move from all the theory into the art form itself. The path to getting good at this is really guided by this profound piece of wisdom from Lao Tzu. The goal isn't to memorize hundreds of complicated, flashy movements. It's to deeply, deeply understand just a few core principles. Because real mastery comes from that kind of simplicity, not from getting lost in complexity.
A great example is the Sandri routine. It basically boils down all these huge principles into just a few key stages. You've got the opening salutes, the commencement posture, and then the really foundational grasp the sparrow's tail. Every single movement is like its own little laboratory for you to explore these ideas of relaxation, diversion, and putting it all together.
And this might be the most important takeaway for anyone who practices. You're not just trying to imitate your teacher or perfectly copy a posture. That's not the point. The ultimate goal is to internalize these principles so deeply that they become your own personal, embodied system for thinking and for acting.
So as we start to bring all these pieces together, you can probably see that we've traveled a long way from that initial idea of just simple exercise, right? We've really journeyed into a realm of deep, practical wisdom.
First off, Tai Chi is a philosophy. It's a strategic way of dealing with the world that's all about yielding and guiding, not about blocking and resisting.
Second, Tai Chi is also a science. It's a legitimate neuromechanical training system that you can actually measure, and it enhances your sensory perception and makes your reactions way more efficient.
And third, Tai Chi is an art. It's a personal journey of embodying these principles in your own way, which allows for unique expression and some really deep self-discovery.
Which brings us to our final big idea. Tai Chi isn't just another thing to check off your wellness list, next to yoga and meditation. It is a complete wisdom architecture. It's a structured system for integrating your mind and your body so you can navigate the messiness of life with so much more skill and so much more insight.
So I want to leave you with this question to chew on. If a practice like Tai Chi proves to us that the quality of how we move is totally tied to the quality of how we think, how we strategize, well, what other powerful forms of ancient wisdom are we just completely overlooking in our modern search for a better life?